The National Census Atlas is the latest release on the Regional Development Monitor. It's a joint project between the three regional assemblies in Ireland, the All Ireland Research Observatory, and the project and tool is developed on the Tulsa Éireann GeoHive platform. This is the latest iteration of national census tools that have been developed by the team at Aero and Maynooth University, and it uses the results from Census 2022. So the Census Atlas is based on 18,000 small areas across the country with a wide range of specific themes, sub-themes and indicators available for anybody to look at the various indicators at the small area level across the country. On the tool, there's a viewer guide which provides detail about the atlas, selecting and turning on and off layers, undertaking query pop-up, and importantly, filtering by geography, which allows planners, policymakers to make a wide variety of maps for a number of geographical areas across the country, whether it's regional assemblies, strategic planning areas, local authorities, local electoral areas, and so on. On default load, the tool starts with an indicator turned on in the demographics section. As you can see here, you can expand the demographics theme. You'll see there's 4 sub-themes: population change, standard age cohorts, young age population, dependency rates. When you open the sub-theme, you can see all the different indicators that are in place. In this instance, what we've mapped is the population age 65 plus. This is of course an important variable in the changing demographics across the country and will be a key indicator to be used in future planning across the country. Between 2016 and 2022, the population in Ireland has increased in age 65 plus by more than 25% and is projected to grow at a strong rate between now into the 2030s and beyond. As such, there's going to be a specific need for very different level of services in relation to health, in relation to activity services, and in relation to transport services across every local authority in the country. To understand this variable, you can click on this legend here, which gives you the details in the map. Darker areas represents higher percentage living in the small area, age 65 plus. Lighter areas essentially represent a younger age profile. As you can see in the map, you can see darker areas in more rural peripheral parts of the country. There are a number of different inbuilt zooms here at city level which allow you to look and understand the variable within the city. For this demonstration, we're going to look at Dublin City. We will click on Dublin. The map zooms into the wider Dublin area and straight away you can see the spatial distribution of this variable across the city. It's very clear from looking at this. You have much younger populations living in the city centre, in some of your suburbs on the periphery, towns such as Maynooth, young student population, Selbridge, Leixlip, in particular parts of Fingal with a very young population, areas such as Mulhuddard and so on. But what you can see is the darker blue areas, the older population. You can see this is predominantly in north parts of Dublin City and in southern parts, particularly in areas such as Dunleary, Rathdown, are in older, more mature neighbourhoods in South Dublin. If we zoom into particular areas in Dunleary, Rathdown, such as Kilmacud or Stillorgan, you can see the level of detail that's available. So each one of these indicators, so there's about 200 plus demographic indicators here, mapped for all 18,000 small areas across the country. So for use in the planning sector, for all local authorities, whether you're a senior planner, strategic planner, or involved in LECP, LCDC, this is an excellent tool for understanding your own local community. It'll be of great use in the development of local area plans right across the country. So to show the detail behind the map, so this particular small area here in Stillorgan, if you click on this area, you will see this pop-up will appear. You can dock this to the side and this gives you the full profile relating to the population age 65 plus within this small area and right up through the geographical tiers between that small area, the ED that it sits in, the settlement that it's in, if it's in a local electoral area or a municipal district, the local authority, in terms of more strategic planning level at the regional assemblies, we provide the data for the metropolitan area spatial plan that it's in this case, the Greater Dublin area. It provides the data then for the strategic planning areas, the regional assemblies, and the state. So a huge amount of information built into the background of this. So examples how this can be used in, for instance, funding applications that maybe planning teams might be working with for the development of services within settlements. It will give the planners and those writing the plans quick and easy access to the data to formulate their evidence-based profile to support their funding application. So that's one very good example of how this can be used, and this is available for all 200 plus indicators on the tool. Another example we will show here relates to population change, and of course Ireland is an economic outlier across the EU and across the OECD in terms of high levels of population growth. And we all know the National Planning Framework is just out now, with high levels of growth projected between now into the 2030s up as far as 2040. However, it is not all growth, and the indicator we're looking at here is looking at long-term population decline between 2002 and 2022. So right from the boom years, right through the bust up to where we are now. So what this map is showing is these circles are showing EDs where there's high levels of long-term population decline. So, whereas we think about Dublin as large levels of population growth, you can see in many EDs to the north of the city, in areas such as Ballymun, up around Coolock, Beaumont, and so on, heading down to the south, places such as Ballantyre, Temple Ogue, and so on, we're seeing population decline in a number of these EDs in the area. Reasons for that to do with aging population in the area, slow levels of transitions of housing and so on, no new housing development coming into these places. So it presents a very different picture than what we think about Ireland in terms of all growth. Of course, if we zoom out and then move from Dublin heading further west, as we head out into the broader Dublin commuter belt, we can see a lot of it as growth here, not much decline. But as we start to head west, we're seeing a very different picture. In western parts of the Northern and Western Regional Assembly, Mayo, Sligo, parts of North Leitrim, Cavan, parts of Clare, part of North Limerick and Kerry. So it's not all a picture of growth across the country. So good way of showing population change, in particular decline in certain areas. So another example I want to show here is related to economics, and I'm going to give a very good example here of how this tool is providing something really new and innovative for planners all around the country. So what we're going to look at here is a map of unemployment. So you turn on your indicator, your map will turn on. So we're looking at unemployment rates across the country. As you know, recent labour market statistics out, Ireland has record levels of employment in the country, record low levels of unemployment. What this map is doing here is looking at the census unemployment rate. So we're still seeing some small areas with high levels of unemployment in the area. We can have a look at this across our cities. So if we look at Cork City, we can see the breakdown across Cork City. Certain parts of the city, much higher levels of unemployment than others. So again, building into economic strategies, of course, which are core pieces feeding into county development plans and the future growth of local authorities. This data will be very useful for feeding into that. If we look at Limerick City, again, we can see the very clear trends and patterns across the city. And of course, as we know, in Limerick, we've some of the most disadvantaged neighbourhoods across the country. But what is the real piece of innovation? What I want to show you here is the ability of using this tool to create your own bespoke maps. So whether you're a planner in a local authority, you can create a map for your own local authority. If you're an elected member, you can create something for the municipal district that you're in or the local electoral area. Or indeed, if you're interested in the metropolitan area spatial plans, you can produce your own maps on that. So the tool that the region assemblies have developed here will be of real use to planning and to planning documents and to policy work over the next number of years. And of course, this will be of great use to consultants working across the planning sector in Ireland. So to show you how this works, you click on this three dots here to the side of your indicator and a set filter will pop up here. So this essentially allows you to filter out all the geographies that you're not interested in. So in this case, we will add a clause. and we will select the geography that we're interested in. And you can see here where it says filter geography, that's essentially allowing you to create a map for any one of these unique NUTS 2 areas, unique NUTS 3 areas, local authorities, LEAs, or so on. So in this case, we're going to create a map for a metropolitan area spatial plan. So the regional assemblies have put a lot of thought into this in terms of how they configure the data in the background. So when it comes to developing these new strategies, this tool can essentially create the maps on the fly for this. So if you think about the planning sector and the pressure that's on all planning departments across the country, and the strength of connections between planning departments and GIS within local authorities, this will really break that down. With understanding how this works, any planner with a couple of clicks and can produce their own maps for any part of the country. So we're going to select the MASP area. We're going to set this to unique, and we'll see what we have under here is a list of all the individual metropolitan areas across the country. In this case, we're going to look at the Limerick-Shannon Metropolitan Area Spatial Plan. We click on this, and then we turn on this field here, and you can see that the map has now filtered out all of the geography outside of this that we're not interested in. So if you are working in Limerick and producing a map for this area, you're not interested, or possibly do not want the data, related to Ennis or further south. You're just looking at your own study area. If we go up to our contextual layers at the top, we can open this and turn on one of the boundaries for the MASP areas. So you can see we can turn on the MASP boundaries. The boundary will come along the outside here, and you can essentially create your own map with a specific boundary set up for this area. There is a print tool on the side here where you can turn this on, add in the name of your map, print it out as a PDF or as a JPEG, and export it. So this is going to be a really useful tool. It's in use at the moment. Over the last number of weeks and months, we have been demonstrating this and training planners, elected members, working with all sorts of related groups, such as the Atlantic Economic Corridor, Western Development Commission, all sorts of groups who are working in sectors related and part of planning, using this tool to support their work.